Okay, everyone. So we'll give everyone a chance to sign on while we get fired up here. We'll talk about the legalities first, like always. Past performance is no indicator of future performance. We are not registered investment advisors. Anything in this program should be taken for entertainment purposes only. This is not an offer to buy or sell any stocks or options. Always read the disclaimer. The disclaimer is right there in the description. Take the time to read it, and read it whenever, anytime you're dealing, especially with financial information. Make sure you read that disclaimer. Sometimes you'd be surprised what you find in them. The other thing about disclaimers too is while everybody's signing on, let's kind of talk about this. Disclaimers will have disclosure too. Like if you like to subscribe to a lot of stock emails and things like that, a lot of times you'll get these paid advertisements. Well, if you look down in the disclaimer, they're supposed to have the disclosure, whether they've been paid to promote the stock, whether they were given stock to promote the stock, whether they're paid in cash, all that good stuff. So it's always valuable information in the disclaimer. So we'll give everybody about 10, 15 more seconds before we get started. It was a busy day. Sorry for the late start. The trade team had a really busy day today, and we'll get into it. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Welcome, Roland. You're first in. Weekend time. Anyways, though, look, how many of you, let me start this show out by asking you, how many of you saw this Turkey event coming? How many of you even had any idea that there was the potential for an event in Turkey, especially like a currency crash like we just got this morning, which was kind of an across-the-board killjoy, right, for the for the whole week. But think about it. How many of you actually saw this coming? Well, we did. That's part of the reason we went long gold. We didn't say anything about the Turkey situation yesterday and the day before because we wanted to use it to make a point on the show today. And what that point is like we've been saying, if you're getting your news from CNN, CNBC and things like that, look, CNBC is a great financial site, but it is not a trader site. It's a fluff site like all these other sites. It's a clickbait. It's all about getting clicks. It's all about selling advertising. Where did we find out about Turkey? Well, we found out on Kitco, kitco.com. So you see, this is what we were talking about. And we waited the 2 days to bring this up. We wanted to let this Turkey thing kind of rear its ugly head before we made this point. But you see, how many people never saw this coming, right? So anyways, for you, those of you that are kind of seeing the situation, but you're not really understanding it, basically what's happening right now is the Turkish lira has just crashed. There's some combination things here. Trump released another potential list of tariffs and things like that. They've got a bunch of stuff going on within Turkey. And what's happened is the lira has devalued so crazily that it's just the dollar got pushed up crazy strong today. We're short the dollar too. So anyways, but we're way out on that. We think we're still going to see a crash in that dollar, but we'll get into that a little later. But look, so Trump released this list of potential major sanctions, and that kind of just hit the lira and just rampaged through it. Donald Trump in the past has said that he wants to have a good relationship with Turkey way back in the beginning of his term and when he was campaigning. The big question here is, will he be able to repair these relationships? And the other thing is too, does he really want to? I mean, there's a lot going on here. Turkey, Erdogan and stuff are really buddied up with Russia. There's a the big debate started over this missile defense system. That there's a Russian-built missile defense system that Turkey wants to put in place. We just sold jets to Turkey, and the concern here is that missile defense system is going to reveal some weaknesses in those jets, and that information is going to transpire over to the Russians, and that, of course, will hurt the national security of the United States. So that's one side of it. Now, let's ask ourselves, banks got a big hit today. You guys that follow Bank of America and stuff like that, we follow Huntington Bank and stuff. We follow a lot of the banks. We own a lot of the banks. But, the big question is, what's going to come of this? Really, what's going to come of this? And is it a solvable problem? Well, first of all, it's kind of a dangerous situation because Turkey is, to a certain extent, in bed with Russia. So, I mean, we have to be very careful on how we deal with this right now, and we can't be giving the farm away. But the big concern for us, for traders, is not the political BS. It's how is this going to affect the market? How is this going to affect economies going forward? So the big scare in this is, will Turkey start defaulting on loans? Well, how much loans does Turkey have right now? Guess what? European banks are very vested in Turkey. Spain has about $83 billion in loans to Turkey. France has about $38 billion in loans to Turkey. Italy anyways, Italy has about $17 billion in loans to Turkey. So if they default on these, that's gonna just reverberate through the European economies. Now, Japan has about 14 billion, the UK has about 9 billion, and the United States has about 18 billions in loans. Now, you can see on that chart, the United States is one of the least exposed to this, but of course, our currency, the dollar, is exposed to it, and business ties are exposed to it, and national security and stabilizing of that region and stuff. So it's an interesting story going forward, and we'll keep an eye on it as we go along. Really, the damage it did today was, you poor call holders today. We're rolling into Friday. If you were holding 8-10 expiration calls, man, you just got destroyed today. Rug pulled out from underneath you. So what did you miss? You know, if you're following CNBC, you probably didn't even know what was going on with Turkey. You had no premonition of it or anything like that. So if you're following, like what we talk about, if you're following the trade commodity rags and things like that, sites where you get better information, more independent information, it's not really attached to yeah, that's right, Samuel, you used to work in Turkey. You probably can tell us a lot more than I can. But you know, if you're following these Kitco and stuff, and even if you're following like on StockTwits, we first got wind of this about a week ago. We were just fooling around on StockTwits a couple weekends ago, and somebody in the UUP thread had posted about this, and so it kind of piqued our curiosity. We went searching on kitco.com for articles, and we started finding information, and we were ready. You can see we're long gold. We're still up about 20-30% on that trade. It was up as high as 55-60%, and we're going to stay that way. So here's another thing too. If you go on the CNBC website right now, you've got a ton of articles. You've got everything from, of course, you've got a boatload of Turkey articles. Everybody's an expert, especially at CNBC and the mainstream media, right? It's funny. They have journalism degrees, but all of a sudden they're telling you how world economies are supposed to work. But hey, that's neither here nor there. So, but there was another important piece of information that came out today that just got buried. It got buried below articles about prostitutes, articles about nothing that matters to anyone. But it was important information. So we had an economic report today, and we had some inflation numbers. The core inflation rose about 0.02%. It's at its highest since 2008. That's commonly referred to as the CPI. Now, that's all fine and dandy and stuff. We know the Fed is looking for some inflation signals here, but if you're a smart investor, smart wealth builder, you know that the CPI is a very mainstream number, but the real number that the Fed's looking at is called the PCE. The PCE is the Personal Consumption Index, and that was up 1.9%. What the Fed's looking for there is 2%. And it hit 2% in March, which is the first time in 6 years. So, you know, the Fed looks like they're getting some of the reaction they want from these rate hikes, and all systems are go. So we'll see how it goes going forward. The other thing today was the NASDAQ's winning streak ended. Boo. Let's take a look at the market numbers while we're talking about this. The Dow was down about 176 points at the close. It was down even way more than that. And the S&P closed down about 30 points. The NASDAQ, poor NASDAQ, after all those big gains and new highs, it finally had a losing day. It was down about 82 points, not even a whole percent. And the small caps, the Russells, took a little bit of a shot, about 0.25% down. Now, here's the interesting thing about what's going on with the market, right? We talk about it all the time. Your volatility indicator, the VIX, it's still signaling there below 14. It's still in those 12, 13 range. So really, how much fear was stricken into the market today? Well, it's hard to tell, and we'll see going into next week. Look, one day doesn't make a market, okay? One event doesn't make a market. So, we continue to be bullish on our view of the market. We knew, and we talked about this yesterday in the show, that as we kept making attempts at this S&P 500 all-time high, the more times we failed, the more likely we're going to have a nice sharp pullback. And guess what we got today? A nice sharp pullback. We were talking in our membership group earlier in the week. The trade team had asked all the members, hey, what do you guys think? Is it a buy the dip opportunity? And of course, most people came back with yeah, it is a buy the dip opportunity. And it is and it isn't. But we sat back because we knew there was this turkey thing lingering. We knew we just went long in gold. We knew that the S&P was kind of making these attempts at the all-time high, but just not quite able to get over the hump. So we didn't open up that by the BTFD trade, right? The BTFD trade. But we will be, okay? We're just looking for our opportunity. So if you're wondering it's Friday, so let's kind of just go over what we've been trading before we get into our subject of the day for our little opining. But we're still bullish on the market. We're long gold right now. We made some money on that gold short, about 35% on a couple days trade Monday, and now we kind of reset and we're long on gold. So we're in gold, and we also we told you yesterday that we'd be talking about a minor play that we opened up today or yesterday, and it's everybody on our subscriber base has had ample time to get into it. So now we'll talk about the symbol publicly, and what it is ABX. ABX is of course excuse me, I had a little data problem here. But ADX is one of the largest. In fact, it is the largest gold producer on the planet for miners. It's been beat down real bad. It's really had some tough times the last few months, last year. But their CEO is kind of straightening the ship. He's got a lot of things going for it. We think it's found a bottom, and we're going to see if we can make a little money on it. It was down about 3 cents today. We went about 6 weeks out on the options, and we went right at the money. So Monday or Tuesday, we'll tell you exactly what the trade was, but as far as the contracts. So look, that's what we're doing right now. We're still long AINV. We're still long Huntington Bank shares, what we've been talking about for a few days. We still like banks going forward. Again, we talk about it all the time. Patience, having a plan, being confident. When days like today happen, man, really the only thing it does is it screws every trader that had calls going into today. But we didn't, so it didn't screw us. But one day doesn't make the market. So we're going to stick to our guns, and we're still short the dollar also too there. So let's get into the subject of today's subject. And we were talking about this in the group today, and the group had agreed that we should talk about it during the show. It's a good subject right now, and it's a kind of a forefront subject. You see a lot of articles about a lot of these companies that we're about to talk about. It's media stocks. Are media stocks a buy right now? I mean, CBS had a rough day today. Just checking real quick. CBS had a rough day today. It ended up down $1.05, over 1%, almost 2%. And then the other stocks along with it's your Fox and stuff like that. They had rough days too. It was a rough day across the board for the media. And one of our favorite stocks personally, WWE. Now, this whole subject in the group, it started over someone asking about WWE. Just for disclosure, personally, I've owned WWE since about $35 in my personal portfolio. So let's any advice I give, take with a grain of salt. I want it to keep going up. Anyways, but look, WWE. Let's talk about WWE. Let's talk about way back when it IPO'd. It IPO'd about $40, and When it IPO'd, personally, I really like the company. I know the story of Jim McMahon. I'm a big wrestling fan. You know what they say, buy what you know. But this was a company that I was very familiar with. I grew up with wrestling. And I was very familiar with the format and Jim McMahon and WWE Enterprises, how way back in the 70s, how he bought that WWF and he turned it into a media empire, right? Way back then, Bruno Sammartino was the WWF world champion, and he'd been world champion for about 15 years. It was just an old and tooth thing. Wrestling was dying. Vince McMahon bought the franchise, and look what he's turned it in today. Well, guess what? WWE is a massive operation. I mean, on the scale of Fox, CNBC, Disney, all those stuff, CBS, Disney. It's actually on the same scale of that. So I'll get to you guys' questions right now. In just a second. But so WWE, we still like WWE, and we're looking at it for plays. With options, it's kind of been a stock where you kind of buy it and hold it and let it accelerate in your portfolio over a certain amount of time. But there are movements in it, and we're looking for it. CBS, we don't like CBS going forward. We think it's with the less moves things coming out with the sexual harassment or whatever it was, some kind of sexual deviation. Surprising, right, Hollywood? But we don't like CBS going forward, and we've actually been looking to set up a short. And what's happening with that short is we just can't get a pop out of it to set that short where we want it. So it's been trickling down, but we don't like CBS going forward. Fox, we're kind of jury still out on that. WWE, we really like. But Disney is the other one too. We think Disney's going to have some serious problems going forward. We think the Star Wars franchise is getting long in tooth. We think a lot of that is wearing off. We just had the Guardians of the Galaxy director just got accused of some kind of sexual misconduct. Again, Hollywood and sexual misconduct. But we just think that CBS and Disney are real good short candidates. And we'll keep you updated on this. But media stocks as a whole are a really fun sector. So if you guys are looking for stock ideas, a lot of times you can find them in that media sector. And usually your best traded ones are CBS, Fox, which is FOXA, and Disney, which is DIS, and WWE, which is WWE. But, we'll talk about a little bit more going forward about media stocks. But because one of our members had asked about it in the group today, we just kind of want to touch bases that, yes, these are all top watch list items, what we call top shelf watch list items, WWE, CBS, Disney, and FOXA. And we always keep them on the watch list because we're always looking for a move. Now we're looking to set up something longer on a short, and we'll booted myself off the thing. Booted myself off my show. Anyway, so look, to kind of sum that up, we're bullish on the market right now, and we're still confident that we're going to take a real serious shot at that S&P 500 high. The NASDAQ is a NASDAQ. Look, this thing has just chugged higher. It was bound to have a pullback. If there's going to be a day for a pullback like today, Friday is always the best day. By then, usually for us as traders, any puts or calls, we're not sitting on them at expiration. If we are, they're usually at the point where we need a super big run to get out of them and stuff. So Friday is a good day for us to have a pullback. We'll reset over the weekend and we'll come back at it Monday. So let's go ahead and get some questions here. I'm going to start right at the bottom. Yeah, Samuel, you can probably share some really great stories about Turkey, right? I mean, what's the old saying, the Turkish markets, right? I bet you have some great stories from there. Samuel, our world traveler, man, you know what I mean? We get so many good stories about it. But, it's interesting, right? It's an amazing place, right? It's an amazing marketplace, just full of life and full of vibrance and full of business, and it's exciting for someone like myself. It's a very exciting place. I love business, but as Samuel also says, it's the wild, wild west over there. And I think the big thing going forward right now is who can you trust? We don't know really. You got to think about it. Where is Erdogan's loyalties lay or lie? You know what I mean? It's really the U.S. has only got about what $18 billion in loans out to Turkey. I mean, we can absorb that, but with the there's some European countries that have had big bets in there, especially Spain, and Spain's not as strong of an economy right now going forward. Look, right now, the biggest advantage Donald Trump has is the U.S. economy is growing pretty much faster and stronger than any other economy on the planet. So that gives him certain advantages. Whether he's able to take advantage of those advantages is another story. But as we've said before, we think by Labor Day we see some clarity on these on this trade war. But yeah, Samuel, thank you, man. Let me put one more of your comments up here, Samuel. This is a good one. Pre 9/11, everyone carried handguns on national flights in Turkey. I was the only one without a gun. Oh my God. Isn't that crazy, though? That just goes right back to what you were saying, right, Samuel? It's the wild, wild west. I've read plenty of trade articles about Turkey in that region, and it must have been an amazing time for you, Samuel. We'll have to have you on the show next week so we can talk a little bit more about that if you have some time. So, and then Savar. Okay, so some people who are bearish on ABX are concerned about the company's debt. They're highly leveraged, but they've been reducing debt of late. You just answered your own question there, Savar. Let's see, Jesse. They will be having their first ever all-female. Yeah, back on WWE. And basically you answered your question there, Savar, in a sense that, yes, debt is a concern, but they are lowering it. So that's what we're counting on. Any hoots. I know that was an easy one to answer, right? But look, Jesse, you were the one that asked the question that got this whole conversation started this morning. Man, WWE is just expanding. That's why we're looking for a trade on it, but we can't. We're trying to find just the right trade on it, and we think there's going to be a pullback here at some point. You know, all shares, nothing goes straight up. We want to see a little consolidation and then get in real nice. But it's a fabulous company, man. And you look at what they're doing with it, the McMahons. Vince McMahon's wife is actually on Trump's one of his business boards, and she's just very, very out there with business and stuff like that. She's a smart woman. Vince McMahon, obviously, nobody does the sports entertainment like Vince McMahon does. I hear he still writes scripts and stuff. I don't know if that's true, but an interesting story is one of my neighbor's father is actually Don Morocco. I don't know if you guys remember Magnificent Morocco, but this goes way back to the Bobby Heenan and Pampero Firpo, and you guys probably don't know any of these names, but back when the WWE was just rolling from the WWF into the WWE, McMahon had just bought it, and they were some of the names. And one of my neighbors, his father is Don Morocco, who is a world champion, very popular wrestler, especially here in Hawaii, as you can imagine. A great entertainer, and he constantly talks about what the McMahons have done with that operation. So, like I said, you know, the developments are incredible, and we're going to keep talking about this for a couple weeks on the show. We'll have quick mentions and stuff. Yes, Turkey is a member of NATO. Yeah, I like that answer, Marco. Yes. Yes, supposedly. You're right. Sometimes it's hard to tell, right? But NATO, I mean, what? God, NATO is a mess, man. Trump's right about NATO. And then Severin, Istanbul is a cool city. Yeah, not to say that, don't anybody take this like we're crapping on Turkey, the city, or Turkish people, man. It's, you know what I mean? Look, the leaders are the ones that screwed this up, not the people. The people, like Samuel, Samuel will tell you some of the stories from Turkey and stuff. It's a fun place. It's an exciting place. It's a vibrant place. But yes, they are a member of NATO. Yes, they do have a little bit of pull, not as much as, of course, the U.S. or Russia and stuff. But they are a member of NATO. They are supposed to be an ally, and they need to start acting like it. That's pretty much the bottom line on that. So Let me just review the questions here real quick, and then we'll let everybody go get your Friday started. Look, you guys have a great, great Friday, and we're going to leave it at that. Istanbul is a cool city. You know, it's great to have you guys that have actually been to these places. You know, Samuel, Savar. Well, that's the old joke, the Turkish prisons. But you know, it's great to have you guys on the show, and please keep stopping by and bring some more comments on. Let's go ahead and get the weekend started. Okay, it was a long week this week. Everybody's a little tired. Today, that market sell down broke a lot of hearts. We weren't one of them, but we could feel the pain of the call holders. Anybody with an 810 expiration pretty much got trounced today. We didn't set up any new trades. We don't like to set up trades on Friday. First of all, you lose a little IV over the weekend. Why not wait till Monday or Tuesday and things like that? So, look, it was a great week. We had we cashed in a 35% gain early in the week. We set up this gold trade. It's already up 20-30%. The ABX trade's kind of been bouncing up and down. We're still right at that buy amount that we got in. We're real confident with the play. Monday is another market day. Don't forget, we've got Labor Day weekend coming up at the end of the month, so we'll get a 3-day holiday in that. Football season is in full swing. You guys have a great weekend. It has been awesome. Okay. We'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much for joining us.